of our characters. And I guess that would be all characters, not only the main character. And I've been giving it some thought. And I was thinking Hercule Poirot being accused of being a Frenchman, but really he's Belgian, is not, I wouldn't call him necessarily likable. He's odd. He's a little odd. And then I was thinking of Sherlock Holmes, who I personality wise, I don't find likable at all. I admire his ability. He's like an idiot savant, the way he can scurry out all the clues and details, but I wouldn't call him likable. Dr. Watson to me was more likable than Sherlock Holmes. Yet Arthur Conan Doyle, I
Spoiler.
mean, that's an amazing series that he wrote. And Lord knows we can't compete with Agatha Christie and Poirot. So maybe likability isn't as important as we think it is, although with Katie Porter, I automatically made her likable. And maybe it's because I knew I had to live with her for a duration of several books, as opposed to Agatha Christie, who did not plan, I don't think, of writing a large number of Poirot mysteries. There are several, but I think she liked Jane Marple better. So uh, why don't you all weigh in and let me know what your thoughts are? Joe, you were waving your hand. What would you like to add?
Oh, I was going to say when you were discussing Sherlock Holmes that Dr. John Watson is his not just his sidekick, but his foil. So we have the much more likable Watson, sort of in a way interpreting Holmes's brilliance, I think. And the two of them together form something maybe not relatable, but admirable. And Watson is likable, so at least we have someone to sort of relate to a little bit more, you know? So, potentially likability isn't necessary in the main character. Something has to be happening though, I like there are many programs that I have tried to watch of late because I think there's this anti-likability thing going on in a lot, not quite so much right now, but in the recent past, where characters in a show are almost universally unlikable. It's just all conflict and drama. And my husband and I, for example, maybe I shouldn't mention one, but we're trying to watch a highly ranked television series. We got through one episode, loathed everybody on the show, and went, nope, 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 not watching this one because both of us feel that there has to be someone you can like and relate to at least one character, at least like or relate to draw you in, you know. Um, you have to root for somebody, depending upon what the plot is about, I suppose, but you have to root for somebody. And in the case of Sherlock Holmes, I think we were rooting for justice. And
Uh,
I think that the goal, perhaps, of the publication is in that, is all might also take the place of liking the actual character, if that makes sense. So if they're not likable, they have to be relatable or admirable or take you to a place where you want society to be. There has to be something, that
Sherlock was
motivates us to stay with it, with the overall book. And I'm just going to say one thing about my own books very quickly is that I'm not so sure. I don't know how much readers love my main characters. Like I kind of hope they do because I also, write them hopefully as being likable and admirable. Um, in the case of my Western, though, the character everybody likes the most is Hannah, who is the woman who helps my main character escape the long arm of the law, so to speak. Well, actually, the industrialist who is sicking the law on him. And everyone's like, you need to write Hannah's story. I want more of Hannah. Where's Hannah? Why aren't you writing more about Hannah? And it's like, okay, thanks very much. I appreciate that. And sometimes you write a character whom you hope is very sharp and very I don't know, like distinguishable and powerful. and you're very proud of this secondary character, but you never think that people are going to latch on to that one. You know what I mean? Yeah, this has been kind of an interesting experience in that respect. Anyway, that's what I had to say. I wanted to weigh in there on the Sherlock Holmes thing because I think those were um, the fact that he has Watson to essentially we see Holmes through Watson's much more a kind eye, I think. And the goal of achieving justice is what brings us through.
So Watson humanizes Holmes and makes him relatable in that sense that if Watson can be this loyal sidekick for all this time, then there must be something redeeming about Sherlock Holmes. I
That's
guess.
my view, yes.
Yeah.
Harriet,
I also, oh, sorry.
go ahead. I was going to say you were the one that brought up relatability as in likability. So, but go on.
Well, the one thing I was going to say in response is that I think likability and relatability are two different things. And I think likability is more arbitrary, it's more personalized that and individualized because we don't know what was in the heart of the author. There may be attributes of some of these characters that we don't find likable that's as a reader, but some readers might. But that for some reason the author finds them admirable. And I was just thinking about Sherlock Holmes in that respect. I don't know much about the personality or the life experience of Arthur Conan Doyle, but maybe he had an admiration for people who were totally cerebral. Maybe he wasn't an emotional type of person, and he felt that someone who did not express emotion but was totally balanced by their brain, that they totally relied on their intellect, was something that he admired and thought maybe his readers would admire. But I also like the points that Joe made about, and then also you, about how Dr. Watson humanized him and was the foil to that sort of personality defect that Holmes might have had. And even Hercule Poirot, I don't really know what kind of person Agatha Christie is. I'm sure there's a lot written about her. I just have never pursued it. But maybe there was something about his oddness that she found appealing. Maybe it fascinated her. So I think that likability and relatability are different because relatability is something that I think the author wants to provide to their readers. We want the reader to find them relatable. Whether we find them relatable or not is one thing, but rather than liking the character, that the reader can identify with the character, even with all of their own personal character flaws or idiosyncrasies.
Well, I think I for one assume that readers want to set themselves in the story in some way. We watch the movies, we go to the movies, we watch movies on TV, we read whatever, and so that we can kind of live the adventure, even in a subconscious way. And if our characters are not relatable, to me, the reader can't relate enough to put themselves in the story. Now, I may be stretching it, and that may be just a goal I've had in my mystery writing, but the whole reason that I set up the stories the way they do is so that the reader can help Katie Porter find the clues and solve the mystery. And in order to do that, the reader will want to do that, and hopefully will relate enough with my characters that they find themselves in the story. So, but maybe that's not the point. Wendy, what about you? Do you want to live way back in the 18th century and solve the
Well,
mystery?
with Poirot and Sherlock Holmes, those are my two favorite characters. Those are the ones that I find relatable. Those are the ones that I like the most. Dr. Watson, I find to be a weak annoyance. But I agree with Joe in that he is the foil for Sherlock Holmes, and he does humanize him a bit. But I don't enjoy his character. I love Holmes. I love Poirot. As far as likability and characters go, um, like with Katie Porter, I like her because she's human, because she's not always right. She makes mistakes. Uh, she trips through life at some points. She doesn't have all the answers. I guess what I like is the more cerebral characters, the characters who have to think things through, just like Katie Porter does. She's very cerebral in the way that she processes her information. Her husband Jim is the same way. Those are the characters that I find relatable, and maybe it's just because of my profession where I have to deal with multiple points of data and constantly analyzing them. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to those kind of characters.
Interesting.
But this is a very good point, is that, you can be odd and very distinctly human, right? Do we,
Yeah.
making them human is a enormous part of the battle here. They have to have, if not flaws, certainly, soft underbelly somewhere, or how
Yeah.
do we respond to them as human beings, right? So that's a really good point, I think, Wendy.
And Holmes does respond with human touches every now and then, particularly when Watson finds himself in difficulties. Or when he gets put into a position where Watson isn't there to sort of prop him up and he has to relate to what's going on around him. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Does Sherlock Holmes is a drug addict also?
Yeah.
So maybe that is his soft underbelly or his weakness that Conan Doyle was trying to make a little bit more human, so that Sherlock is not this invincible,
Right.
person that doesn't have a flaw. I always wondered about the drug use. I mean, I thought at first it was kind of unnecessary, but maybe that was the softening.
Um, I think I was thinking about Hercule Poirot and Sherlock in terms of their professions. You want them to be competent. You're not really concerned about liking them. You want them to do their job, to be able to take the information and find that person. So being liked isn't important. And I think it's also genre based. Like in a mystery, you want that detective to go after that person. Dr. House, the House
Right.
was actually based on Sherlock Holmes and Watson. That's why House and Wilson, H&W. So you had the kind Wilson, who irritated me all the time, and House, who
Yes.
was that sort of angry, but really, really focused. So you could ignore how you didn't like him because he did what you want him to do, which was the detective work. But I mean, in fantasy and in romance, likability is really important, because if you don't like your heroine and your hero, people just go, oh, fine, I'm not reading this book. And when I'm writing, initially, in the back of my head, I'm going, do I like this person? No, I don't like this person. I don't like this person. She's too whiny. She's too angry. She's too weak. She's too indecisive. And I'm constantly having to go back and rejig that character, because in that genre, they have to be liked. And that's why there's dogs in my series, because that humanizes them.
Yeah.
Also, I've had a couple of kids, so that helped too. But
Yeah.
That I think that characters, and I've written some or tried to write some like that they can be annoying but endearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like
So,
Diego.
I think there's a big range of relatability, likability that I guess reflects humanity, as you were saying.
Oh, this is
We are not all the same, are we, either? But the other thing, but we do recognize humanity when we see it. That we do have in common, I think.
Let's talk about minor characters for a moment. We brought that up. And so like the enemy or the counterpoint in our stories, do we have to make them evil, or can we make them likable as well?
I usually make my villains, not always, a couple of times I have made my villains broken, like not pure evil, but broken people who end up with, significant mental health issues or PTSD and respond to, what would I call it? Threats, I guess, in the most violent and terrible ways. And not all villains are bad. I mean, born bad, born, evil to the bone, I don't think. Making them likable, that's a little trickier. Has anybody else tried that?
Well, one thing you made me think about is one of my fears, and I think you expressed it brilliantly. One of my fears is that the bad guys whom I write about are irredeemable. I'm always afraid of making them cartoon characters. And having the ability to humanize them, I think, is very clever. And I applaud your ability to do that, Joanne, because that is what makes them relatable in a way that we may not want to believe, but we accept.
I don't like to make my bad guys likable. I'm sorry. I want everyone to hate them. And I think there's a balance in that if my other characters are all mostly good-ish, with flaws, hopefully with flaws, that I want there to be a straight line as to why we're not supposed to like these people. It's because they're irredeemable, because they do horrible things. They can be charming and nice, like trying to make this guy Sylvan in the last book charmingly evil, sort of like the devil. But I want him to not be. I want him to be purely bad.
I think you're on the right track there. I think in contemporary mystery on the ground kind of
Yes.
stuff,
Yes.
you have more leeway with trying to indicate that bad things don't necessarily come from people who were born bad. There's more room there for that, I would say. I mean, I have a couple of irredeemably evil people too, but I've tried to mix it up a bit just to reflect the whole,
It adds
pantheon,
nuance
I guess. Yeah.
to your genre. You want it adds to the whole story to have you have a bad guy, and then you sort of weave through that. Why is this person this way? And it's important very much in that genre to have that sort of understanding where the evil is, even if they are eventually irredeemably evil. Why are they that way? Because aside from the odd, is it psychopath or sociopath? I never know which it is. But most people don't wake up one day and decide, I'm going to do something really, really evil. There's a backstory, and you want that in your story as well.